Jim, always good to see you. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Hey, it's our birthday. We both share the same birthday, and I've got some news for you, buddy. I sold my entire shitty movie collection to buy you your missing Michael Ironside movies. I got you those Michael Ironside movies you wanted.
Oh, what, Chris? I just sold off my entire Michael Ironside collection of movies to buy you the gift of shitty sequels.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Oh, you want to go live in the sewer and party?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jamie, hit the intro. We're going to go live in the sewer.
Trash Movie Bonanza with your hosts, Jim and Chris.
Hello, folks. I hope you remembered Garbage Day because it is Trash Movie Bonanza. We've got a special one for you, almost a double theme. We look at trashy movies. It's just two friends looking at trashy movies, or maybe just cult hits, things like that. But my name is Chris. I'm one half of your hosts. I also host a show called Comic Tropes, but mostly I just like to do this with my friend.
My name's Jimmy Jams, and I'm a freelance illustrator, professional comic book artist, if you guys can believe that, and a fan of sequels that have nothing to do with the original movie that they're based off of.
That's true. That's true. We were like just having the vague idea of crappy sequels. That was like the vague idea. But you're right. Like both of these are things that throw everything about the first movie right out the window.
Yes. So, Chris, the good news right off the bat of our show is you guys might be like, why are they doing these sequels? You don't have to see the originals of either of these movies to understand and appreciate our show or to watch these movies. So,
no, in fact, my ultimate recommendation is to save your sanity. Probably don't watch these movies that we're about to talk about. Watch the original and then just completely skip these. But I sort of still had fun. We're going to look at two movies. We're going to look at a horror movie, Prom Night 2, and we're also going to look at my pick this week, which is Highlander 2, The Quickening. Oh boy, Jim. We can just, you know what, even if we did our somewhat usual thing of trying to break this down chronologically, it still doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's nonsensical.
True.
Did you happen to look up any of the details about the behind the scenes of how this movie happened?
The production and so shot in Argentina, right?
Argentina, because they thought they were going to get a tax break and the dollar was much stronger against whatever they use in Argentina.
Yes. And then Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the bond company that lent them the money, they wound up taking over the production.
Yeah. Well, behind the scenes, the reason the dollar was so strong in Argentina was because their economy was starting to collapse to such a degree that all of a sudden, while they're down there, you go to a grocery store and they wouldn't sell you, say, I don't know, a coconut or maybe something you actually need, like a bottle of milk, because they knew that the next day they could charge way more because the economy was just cratering.
Right.
So that's why people weren't at the time filming in Argentina. They thought they were going to save money. But because of all this stuff, to explain, folks, the bond company is, it's like a type of insurance to make sure that a movie gets done. Mm-hmm. And typically that's just all they do. But they must have had a terrible contract with them or something, like the film producers, because the bond company got nervous and stepped in and on the spot started just having them like rewrite stuff and cut out action scenes, things like that. They were just like, too expensive. Don't risk it.
Yeah. It's crazy though, man, because this movie does look like an expensive movie. I mean, it's an expensive, shitty movie is basically what this whole thing is, what it boils down to. Because there's scenes, man, that look great. There's a couple action things that look great. The car, when they're in the car and it gets shot up and riddled with bullets and stuff. It's like, there's stuff that looks cool and effort went into it, but it's just, the whole movie as a whole is a misfire. It's
beyond having both of the stars of the first movie, Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery, it had the same director, Russell Mulcahy. Yeah. And I've always thought Russell Mulcahy has a great visual sense. He made stuff like that MTV Teen Wolf show look awesome.
Oh,
like, you wouldn't expect anything out of that, but like he was frequently a director on that, and he made it look good. Mm-hmm. Great visual sense. Came up for like a lot of people in like the mid '80s from doing cool music videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a whole.
And the original generation. Highlander, I love.
Yeah, me too.
Simple idea.
Yeah,
there are immortals. They are destined to sort of come across each other across time, like as time goes on. And ultimately there can only be one. They're just sort of drawn to something called the Gathering. The only way you can defeat an immortal is by cutting off his head. So they're all masters of different types of swordplay. Mm-hmm. That's a fun idea. It bombed. It utterly bombed when it was in theaters.
Yeah.
But then it was really popular on home video, so they decided to make this sequel. But here's the thing. The main guy, Connor MacLeod, had won. So how do you continue that story?
Yeah. Well, I guess, Chris, with this movie, you turn them into... You shit on the lore you created, and then you turn them into space aliens? They're aliens now?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I don't...
No, they're from the planet Zeist, it says.
Yeah.
And we only get a couple little flashbacks, but that takes away so much of that sort of poetic idea of somebody just sort of living past all their friends and family and living through all these like interesting generations of history. You're just like, but it gets worse, Jim. Like when we first meet our protagonists, Connor MacLeod and Ramirez, Lambert and Connery, it turns out they knew each other before the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
It jumps back 500 years ago, and it says that they were on the planet Zeist as rebels, revolutionaries. Yeah. I'm like, okay. They instantly get captured by the bad guy. They're going to go up against this guy, General Katana. We don't really even see the fight. They're captured.
Yeah.
And their punishment is not to be like killed or imprisoned, in a dungeon. They're going to be sent to Earth, where these priests tell them, there you will be immortal.
You've been found guilty of treason. We hereby sentence you to exile from Zeist. You will be sent to the planet Earth. Once there, you will be immortal. You can only die if your head is cut from your body.
And when there's only one of you left, you can either come home or grow old.
Yeah. Stay on Earth and just grow old naturally.
What's that for a punishment? Hey, you're going to be immortal.
Chris, did you get vibes of when that scene was happening, of them telling our two main characters what was happening? I got the first Superman 1978 vibes of like on Krypton, of them sentencing Zod, and it just wasn't as cool. But it was like, there's a tribunal, and then they're kind of giving us some exposition, and then what happens?
So much of it
very strange.
Just feels like it's missing exposition. And yes, we know that there is this like producer's cut that changes it from saying that they're from the planet Zeist to just saying that they're from the distant past. I don't feel like that's better. We're just looking at the theatrical cut because it's 25 minutes shorter.
Yeah. Dude, so you're talking about the Renegade cut, whatever that is?
I am.
Like, I don't even know what that is. Because you texted me and we're like, watch the regular cut, don't watch this Renegade cut. And I just laughed. I'm like, Renegade cut? Are they trying to make Highlander 2 some lofty piece of art. It's like, guys, come on. You fucked it up on the first try. Like, you're not going to polish this turd into something else, or I don't know.
You're right, Jim. It's weird because I think like what was cool about the first one was it was set in something very recognizable. It was just set in modern day New York, you know? And then we'd get flashbacks of these various immortals throughout time. And that was interesting. This one is set in the far future of 2024.
Yes.
Where we are told that like in 1999, which was only 8 years in the future of when they filmed this.
Yeah.
We are told that the ozone layer is destroyed. Millions of people worldwide are dying from radiation poisoning.
Only a few months now until the ozone layer is completely gone. A team of international scientists led by Dr. Alan Neyman and supervised by Connor McLeod work around the clock. This may be the last chance for planet Earth.
So Connor McLeod, he's immortal, but he's just a guy. He invents a sci-fi shield to protect us from the sun.
Yeah.
Where did he get that ability?
He's almost like a Lex Luthor type figure. He's like this genius inventor, and people in 2024 in New York either love him or hate him.
Right.
There's
He's
a scene
famous.
in a bar where like a woman credits him for ruining her life. And so he goes from the first movie of being this awesome, like protagonist, swashbuckling hero to in this second movie, he's an old man who has a very strange old man voice and is
Let's
hated.
talk like that for a little bit, Jim. This is. I think Christopher Lambert can be a good actor, but he's playing a guy that's, by the way, like I did the math, and he's supposed to be all of like, you know, like maybe late 50s, and he talks like this. Hey, Jimmy, can I get a drink?
You're a good boy, Jimmy.
Well, bottoms up.
Hey, are you McLeod?
Yes, I am.
Great. I always wanted to meet the guy that turned the world to shit.
I'll take another one of those whiskey sours and turn on the TV for me at the bar.
Because he was immortal at supposedly a young age. We'll say at like the oldest, something like 25, you know? And then he became immortal. And then we're jumping forward like something like 25, maybe 30 years from when that first movie was.
Yeah.
That puts him in his 50s with my math. But he's talking like this.
He's got the old man makeup on. Chris, one big thing I did want to say right away too is doing some research on this movie. The three main guys, Michael Ironside, Sean Connery, and what's the gentleman that plays McLeod again? What's his name?
Christopher Lambert.
They all knew that this script was a piece of shit, and they all did the movie for the money. And to the point of, you guys, Sean Connery got $3 million for
Three and a half mil.
And dude, props to Sean Connery. Bless this man. He was James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
He was the first James Bond. He paid his dues. He worked hard. But on this flick, he got the 3.5 mil for 9 days of work. And in one of the major scenes of the movie, Chris, Sean Connery is hanging out being fit for a suit. And he's literally sitting and drinking scotch and smoking a cigar. And Chris, I have no proof for this, but I am convinced that he put that in the contract of like, one of the scenes, you're going to pay me to just drink scotch and smoke a cigar if you want me for the film. That's what I'm bringing to the movie.
He's got that,
amazing.
Like he's, you know, got a scene where he's just sitting on a, you know, airplane set flirting with like a girl like less than half his age.
Yes.
There's hardly any sword fighting in this damn movie.
Yeah.
There's hardly any.
And also Ironside, there's a quote from him saying like, yes, of course I knew this was a piece of shit script. He's like, I went into it saying, I'm going to be the most memorable thing in this movie, and I'm just going to ham it up and chew the scenery as hard as I can. And it worked because he's the best thing in the movie as the bad guy. You know,
he really is. Although everything about General Katana, all of his decisions are like the worst decision he could possibly make. You know?
Yes.
Connor McLeod has been sent to Earth. He's old and dying. It's been 500 years. And all of a sudden, General Katana is like, he hires 2 weirdo henchmen and he goes, I want you to go to the planet and kill him. I'm like, if you're aware, he seems to be aware of everything that's going on Earth. Because he does a lot of references later of like Earth references, like this ain't Kansas anymore.
This sure doesn't look like Kansas, does it?
I was going to bring that up, the Kansas line, where it's like,
Well,
this is terrible writing. Like, this intergalactic warrior guy is not going to know the Kansas cliche line that people say in movies. Like, how does he know this line?
I don't know. And so he decides after 500 years, all of a sudden it's really urgent out of nowhere. Like, it's not like McCloud is doing anything other than just getting old at this point. You know, he's ready to just die.
Yeah.
There's no more price. There were so many opportunities in that 500 years he could have sent these guys. All of a sudden, based on nothing, he's just like, go kill McCloud. And these 2 guys that look like weird birdmen just teleport to Earth.
Yeah. With their cackling laughs that they do.
Oh, they were so annoying.
Yeah.
They were so annoying. And so we get to see an old man struggle against these 2 henchmen.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get a sword. He fights with like a steel pipe and is just like barely able to stay alive until he lucks out. And one of them like sort of gets lightly kicked, very confusingly, under a train.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can at least show that footage of
Oh yeah.
of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then
that's the quickening. That's where he gets young.
Yes.
So Katana like made him young.
Yeah.
He made him immortal again.
Reverts back to his younger immortal self.
Yeah.
The badass warrior.
He's immortal again.
And then he jumps on a hoverboard from Back to the Future.
I have the same thing in my notes. Like, and it goes on quite a while, to be honest. Like, the second guy has wings and Connor has a hoverboard. I don't know if that would be fun or annoying, but the footage is sped up and they just sort of go back and forth over this humongous set they built with nothing really happening for a few minutes.
And then, dude, when are we introduced to oh shit, I'm drawing a blank on her name. Our female
Virginia Madsen's character?
Yeah.
Louise Marcus?
Yes.
You don't remember Louise Marcus?
I mean, of course I remember her. She's awesome. Okay. I do. And she's in that's the actress from Candyman.
That's true. She is.
She's
and
awesome.
the recent she was in some of the scenes of the recent Candyman. Did you see that?
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. The new one.
Oh, it's a continuation of like the original mythology. So
shit. There. Okay. I need to check that out.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Cool. I want to say director Nia DaCosta. Sorry, I would so easily transition into talking about any other movie right now.
It just becomes us remembering Candyman. Like, remember that scene when the bees came out of his mouth?
I even like, shitty sequels. Candyman 2 did terribly, but I like it because it was set in New Orleans where I lived for 4 years.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's kind of fun.
The voodoo magic, the black magic.
And Tony Todd is just awesome. But this is a great cast, top to bottom.
Yeah.
That's what's like, that's why you're like watching it and it's got a sheen, right? It's got a sheen of professionalism throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got good actors. It really is just the script and the fact that they've taken out like any big set pieces.
Yes.
Because there's hardly any real fighting in this movie, folks. There's hardly any.
Yeah. There's more like the occasional badass scene of something exploding or a good looking special effect. Or I mentioned
some of the special effects, not so great in my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of like, it almost seemed like they were doing some model work when he was in the city and shit was exploding around him. I was like,
yeah,
this actually looks pretty good for this movie.
The building of like there's a company that basically runs the shield that Connor invented, and they're the sort of secondary villain, like this huge capitalist organization. it turns out, like, a scientist tells Connor later, the ozone layer has healed itself. The world doesn't need the shield anymore, but the shield company is keeping it up. But the shield company, that's definitely like a really good model. Some of the shots you can just tell now, but it looks awesome.
Yeah. There's like an initial for the shield company. Is it? Let's just say it's TCRI from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's that.
Well, that would make it more fun.
It's the same. This is a crossover, you guys. This is actually a TMNT prequel or something.
How would you describe Virginia Madsen's character? You brought her up, and then I just sort of went on a tangent. Like, what would you describe her as?
She's like, is she kind of like a rogue agent of sorts who knows McCloud's real backstory? She's seeking him out. I
don't know that she knows his real backstory so much as she knows he invented the shield, and she wants to shut it down.
Yes. The thing that made me laugh out loud, dude, because it had to happen for the movie and the movie alone, is as soon as McCloud turns young again, him and her are immediately making out and hooking up, because she's like, I'm hot protagonist woman in the movie. You're handsome hero protagonist man. We are now making love together in an alleyway. And it's like, wait, what? This is happening now? Like, what?
Exactly. She falls for him in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. The movie
he gets young,
needed
he
it
kills
to
the
happen.
second guy. If we haven't made that clear, we're like, whatever. He just eventually picks up a sword and cuts off that guy's head. And then his quickening. If you folks haven't seen, when you're an immortal and you kill the other guy, you get all of his energy. Mm-hmm. And that creates lots of weird electric explosions in the area. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. It just is what it is. And that chaos causes a tanker truck of gas to fall into McCloud. And for some reason, it's got a big pair of lips painted on one end. So that's what he sees coming at him.
So many disjointed ideas, man, and things that just happen. And there's all these things that happen there, and then there's like the super obvious corrupt corporate business guy who I can't remember that guy's name, but he's a character actor who is
John McGinley is the actor. The character is David Blake. David Blake, CEO of the Shield Company. He's like a parody of like 1980s. Excess capitalism type stuff. It's like RoboCop if it had no charm or no wink to the audience that like we know we're doing satire.
That's a good way of putting it. That's the whole movie. Yeah.
It's weird. So basically, there's not much dramatic tension here, but Louise. Virginia Madsen's character convinces McCloud that his shield needs to be shut down. Mm-hmm. He's not in charge anymore, but when he became immortal again, he just shouts Ramirez, and that magically brings Sean Connery's Ramirez back to life in Scotland, where he died.
Yeah, and he shows up during a stage play.
Yeah, of like Hamlet, I think.
Yeah.
Every time, look, Sean McConnery. I'm making him even more Scottish. Sean Connery is very like magnetic as a performer. He's very interesting when he's on screen, but almost all of his scenes are sort of spread out with him making his way through the world to come find Connor McCloud. Mm-hmm. And some of that's a little funny, I guess, him being scared of an airplane or something.
Yeah, it's like fish out of water humor. I mentioned the elaborate suit fitting scene.
Which he pays for with an earring. And I'm pretty sure that no business is, even if it is I don't know, solid gold or a diamond or whatever, doesn't just go like, I can hawk this. I'll take care of all that.
Right. Yeah.
It's also, you can tell that this was made in 1991 because while the movie is set in 2024, Ramirez doesn't have anything like a photo ID, but he's able to just hawk jewelry and get on the plane
Yes.
across like to America.
His
What?
That charm and that accent go a long way, Chris. It's he
Here, I'll be the gate agent. You be Sean Connery, and we'll see. We'll play out how that works. Okay, you show up as Ramirez. Hi, sir. How can I help you?
Listen, lass, you gotta let me on this plane because I have a sword wrapped in paper and I have this very nice suit.
I see that. Well, sir, all I need is we'll have to check that separately, but can I just first get your passport and your credit card?
Don't know what those mean, lassie. I have none of your world's documentation, just this beautiful sharp suit that I'm wearing, and a mission and a gleam in my eye for action.
Ah, sir, let's go into the back room. I'll get you on that plane. That's, I assume, the only way it could have happened. We were cheated. We were cheated, but we've made the movie better with this additional cut scene. Pretty soon there'll be the Renegade Cut Part 2. Yes. And it'll include this.
Oh, God, I just realized that Jamie, our editor, is a true Scotsman, and he's going to have to suffer through me doing my shitty Scottish accent. Jamie, I apologize for that whole last...
Sorry, Jamie. By the way, but to be fair, you were actually playing Ramirez because Sean Connery may be Scottish, but he is supposed to be an ancient Egyptian who lived in Spain.
Right.
But this movie says that they both went to Earth 500 years ago. So I guess he was just making all that up.
Yeah,
I don't know. What does that mean? What are the implications of that?
You can't question things with this sequel. You can't.
It doesn't fit. When Sean Connery finally gets to Connor McLeod, they lightly joust. That's like one of like the 3 light sword fighting scenes we get in this movie. Although, of course, they're not really trying to kill each other. They're trying to test each other, blah, blah, blah. But here's the other thing. Ramirez has been dead for 500 years. Why would he still be the mentor? Because he plays it like McLeod is instantly deferential, like, oh, Ramirez, my old mentor, thank God you're here to tell me what to do. I'm like, dude, you've just been alive for 500 damn years while he's been completely out of the picture. He doesn't know the world or have the fighting experience that you now have.
Right. You're supposed to be the master now. You're the man. There can only be one.
Now, if he needed his friend to help him, cool. Like a buddy cop immortal joint sounds great. But it doesn't make any sense that he's like, Ramirez, I don't know anything. I've only been around for 500 damn years. All I learned was how to create a shield.
Yeah. He's like, I'm suddenly a scientific genius with ozone issues. But Chris, at what point though, it's like, so this Bond company takes over. And then I heard in one of the documentaries I watched that like the script is being rewritten. They're throwing out ideas. At what point do like the filmmakers just throw up their hands and are like, who gives a shit? Let's just finish filming. Like, we don't know what this final package is going to be.
Probably most of it, they were just like, okay, it's a paycheck. I'm just going to finish it and get my paycheck. Russell McKay, he wanted to take his name off of the picture, the director. They didn't let him. Yeah. They didn't let him.
Yeah.
I guess there are like Hollywood like union rules for like how to get your name off of something, and a lot of times they won't let you if you've actually done the work.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to research. Like, how do you actually apply the Alan Smithy name?
Right.
Like what?
Because so few movies actually have that Alan Smithy name, but you hear stories of like the director going like, that was a terrible experience. I don't recommend it.
You have to go before like the Actors Guild in LA and be like, this movie is such a piece of shit that you have to put Alan Smithy on it. I plead my case. Here's all my information. Here's all my evidence. Here's clips from the movie. And
is it like a trial or something? That would be awesome to watch.
That's more interesting than Highlander 2, Chris. That fake movie we just came up with, that scenario is more interesting than. But I will say, I have a note. The subway scene with Michael Ironside is cool.
I was going to say, there's a couple cool things right now with Ironside. If we're even loosely going plot wise, you're right. Like Katana, by the way, just goes like, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. An Earth idiom, and just teleports to Earth. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't teleport as smoothly as his henchmen. He teleports into a subway.
Yes. And then it turns into a full. Scene? I do. I mean, he's full maniac, scene chewing scene. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, this is my flick, dude. Let's bring it. And it's, you're watching it. It's like, all right, what?
He just basically goes to the front, turns it into like full speed mode, beyond what it's supposed to go. All the people are like flying to the back of the subway. It actually goes on for quite a while.
Yeah. It's almost cartoonishly. It's almost a comedy beat. It's almost cartoonishly long, and to the point of like the G-forces, people's faces are hitting the windows and like blood is splurting out. Like,
yeah,
they're going almost full like cartoon.
I'm assuming he killed everyone on the subway. I don't know. And
he's not affected by this because of his immortality. Is that correct? Or
I don't know. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. This is like, when he first lands, that's when he does the line of, this sure isn't Kansas anymore. And I was instantly like, wait, stop. You just took me out of the movie. Okay, never mind. Michael Ironside's having fun. I'll roll with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he crashes, of course, the subway, and then just walks out, and it like is like a cartoon, sort of shakes it off and goes, last stop.
Last stop.
Totally. And there's a lot of fish out of water stuff with him too, where he like takes the cab to go to the abandoned. Is it the abandoned church or the
yes,
building? And him breaking the windows of the cab, and then puncturing the tire, and the cab driver's scared of it, and it's just like, oh, I guess we're going in this direction for this kind of stuff. It tonally lot of different things happening here, you guys.
One other thing I just realized that it's not quite missing, but it's mostly missing. The first movie had a great soundtrack by Queen.
Oh,
it had some real bangers. Right. And all we get in this are like, not the full song, but like there's like a moment, there's a refrain, just the musical part of Who Wants to Live Forever. And it made me it made me just want to watch the original and just bail. It just made me want to bail. I'm so sorry I did this to you.
No, all good. I haven't seen this in like 20 years. And so I was watching it like really puzzled, and then watching documentaries and doing a little research about it afterwards. It's like, oh, well, this is
the story behind the movie is more interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
can watch this and get confused, but then you'll at least have the basis to enjoy a couple documentaries about this troubled production.
Yeah. But it's, the first movie is just an example of like one of those lightning in a bottle. Like you said, it didn't do well in the theaters. It became a cult hit later on VHS. And it's kind of like, you guys, this is just supposed to be a one and done. This was just a standalone thing. And
it was never meant to be more. It told its full story. And I think the only way you could like sort of do this again is if they decided to reboot it and leave it more open-ended, or change a component of the mythology from the beginning, knowing that they want to do more.
Yeah.
Because they told the full story. And then none of this makes sense. Katana's a little fun, like I don't know how he knows where everything is. It feels like there's connective tissue missing, because you're right. He confronts Connor like just to taunt him at his wife's grave.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just goes to the Shield Corporation and like walks in on a business meeting and just says like, we're partners now. I run this place.
partners. I believe you cannot run a business without partners. This is a business, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes. And then winds up killing that head CEO guy, Blake.
Later, yeah. And he kills him pretty good. Like, we
Throws him
wanted
out
to
of
see
a-
Blake get it. That was one of the more entertaining.
Yeah, it was satisfying. I'm just kind of jumping all over. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but
No, it's fine because there's not much more to say about this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
at one point, Katana literally crushes the CEO's nuts because he's been a dick to everybody, including Katana. And it's like, dude, you've seen this guy just walk in and murder your bodyguard in front of all these people. Like, why would you possibly risk pissing him off? You're that much of a dick that you can't rein it in for 2 seconds.
Yeah. I forgot about the nut
Yeah, he
crushing
crushes
scene.
his nuts, picks him up, and throws him out the window of like the high rise. And I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. That guy got it bad.
And if we're talking about cool scenes, I mentioned already, but the car scene of Sean Connery and McLeod busting into the building and them getting shot up. It doesn't, I mean, they get shot to shit and there's some cool squib effects. They're
really
both
are.
immortal, so they survive this, obviously.
But
They
also not in the moment. Yes, they just drive their car into the SHIELD headquarters. The guards, like you say, they light them up. And Immortals basically die, but then they revive a little later.
Yes. Yeah.
So that looked cool. And it was also cool that like they don't have to sneak into a place per se. That was almost clever. They're like, yeah, we'll get shut up. It's gonna hurt. We're gonna sort of die, but we'll come back.
Yeah. And they also recklessly endanger the life of Virginia, who's in the trunk of the car, and she's not immortal.
Yes.
How did
this
she
car
not
has had like thousands of bullets pierce it, and they didn't think that like she would be in any danger. Because yes, she's in the trunk, and she's like, "Oh, they kidnapped me. Oh, thank you for helping me." But remember, she's on like the most wanted list. The SHIELD Corporation wants her more than anyone else. We've seen her in the news, and these guards are just like, "Oh, ma'am, we'll help you."
Yeah. I don't know, man.
All that's important is the three of them are in the building, and they instantly get trapped in the SHIELD Corporation has a death trap room where they seal the doors. And a big fan is coming down, which could theoretically decapitate an immortal.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Sean Connery has one new power. Shades to me, Jim. Did you ever see Superman 4?
Oh God, yeah. The Nuclear Man one,
right?
Yeah.
Do you remember what happens when like he goes to China, the Great Wall of China? Or do you not remember anymore?
I don't. Does he take it apart?
Nuclear Man has broken the Great Wall of China. Superman just he stands still and looks at it, and his supervision heals all the bricks.
That's right.
A new power for Superman.
How is this possible?
This. Like, Sean Connery's like, sometimes you just summon up all of your energy and in one moment you can do magic, and he like stops the fan temporarily, and you know, Louise and Connor leave the room, and I guess he doesn't have enough time to jump for it like the 10-15 feet. Let me break this down for audiences. It may seem like we've mentioned Sean Connery a lot, and he's in the movie for maybe 20 minutes or so, which is a good chunk of time. But all he's done is come back to life and visit his friend. They went into a building, and he instantly gets killed by a fan.
Mm-hmm.
That was the sum total of his contribution here. He didn't tell them a plan or impart some sort of big advice. He didn't fight a bad guy or anything like that. He doesn't have a big fight scene. He just shows up and dies.
Yeah, that's all we get. That's all we get from him.
And then all that's left to do is for Connor to fight Katana.
Oh, and McLeod, though, before Sean Connery dies, McLeod's like, will I ever see you again? And Sean Connery's like, maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe if this movie does incredibly well. they might be able to afford my salary for the next one. Sorry, Jamie. That's my Egyptian by way of Spain accent.
There you go. There you go.
That is not my Scottish accent. Just
But
to be clear.
I say to Sean Connery, we salute you, sir, for getting that 3.5 mil. We salute you.
It's kind of amazing that they got him at this point, because Sean Connery did have sort of an era after James Bond. You know, he was always a movie star, but he was like in the sort of 80s. You know, his career was on the wane, and then in the 90s, for the rest of his career, he became a big star again.
Yeah.
You know, he had sort of a resurgence with stuff like The Rock, you know, like just action movies and stuff.
Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, Hunt for Red October was great.
And then, dude, doesn't he show up surprisingly at the end of the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie? Because he shows up like as the king, and it's a very shocking, like dramatic, badass moment. And everyone in the theater was like, "Holy shit, it's Sean Connery! This is awesome!"
Yeah, he had an interesting career. Towards the very end of Sean Connery's career, this is more interesting than talking about Highlander 2. I'm going to talk about Sean Connery for a minute. Maybe you know this stuff, but hopefully not everybody does. He had trouble figuring out what roles to take. Like, he famously turned down Morpheus in The Matrix because he didn't get it. He didn't get it, but he was offered that role. And hey, Lawrence Fishburne was fantastic. So, you know, we did okay. But that was a thing that had been pitched. He passed on playing, I think Saruman. It was either he was offered Lord of the Rings.
Damn,
and he also said,
I didn't know that.
Don't get it, pass. So he passed on 2 movies that became huge, right?
Wow.
So then he was offered League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and he was like, well, I don't get it, but it seems to me like it's like those 2 things that I just passed on, so I'll say yes this time. And that was his last movie, because he said it was just a terrible experience. He just didn't get it. And,
I could imagine, man. Yeah, that was...
What a way to go out.
That sucks.
It does.
I mean, how would you know? I mean, you have to roll the dice a bit and have, like, I guess, have a really, really good agent, someone that's in the know, someone that's like, dude, you have to do this movie. You have to work with Wachowskis. Like, they're going to be the hottest shit of the 90s. Like, you have to...
Yeah,
I don't know.
So he missed out on 2 sort of big franchises in a row, and so he just sort of felt like, you know what, I'll just retire while I can still enjoy my years, because I don't quite understand Hollywood anymore. Yeah, and that's fair. But, you know, like, he had an interesting career. But my point is that his career was back on the rise in 1991, and it is interesting that they got him, but it was purely for money.
Yeah.
Hey,
completely, man.
Even today, $3.5 million for 9 days of work sounds fantastic. But imagine what that was over 30 years ago.
Dude, it almost reminds me of, like, Jack Nicholson famously made this incredible deal with the first Batman movie in '89. He was smart enough to know how big of a hit it was going to be. And he got, like, this crazy back end cut of all the money earned off, like, merch and stuff, and he made, like, what was it? What's the number? Like 80 million or something?
Something crazy like that. Yeah, there's very few actors that will risk a back end deal and that have the clout to basically put that in their contract. I want to say that Robert Downey Jr. got something similar for all his Marvel work.
Okay,
like, he's just made like, I think, hundreds of millions of dollars off of that.
It's wild, man.
There's not a lot more to say about this movie, folks. You know, like, the first one was presented as the only way you could have these immortals win is with a sword fight, and they've had hundreds of years to practice. So you got some really cool sword fight scenes. This one does not give us that for some reason. There's only one fight at the end, and here's the thing. Christopher Lambert thought, here's how to make it different. Let's use real heavy swords instead of prop swords. It'll look cooler.
Yes.
And everyone around was like, okay, you know, I doubt there's a reason why movies don't do this. Yeah, let's do that. So if you're fighting with big, heavy, real swords, you can't do the intricate play. It's literally like real fighting. Like, it's just lunges and deflections. Like, and you can sort of tell, but it's not as visually interesting.
it's not exciting to watch. And
It's a really lackluster fight.
yeah. And for those of you guys that aren't ever going to watch the movie, I'll just reveal the ending, which is Michael Ironside dies very quickly and easily and gets his head chopped off, and the end, and that's it.
Right.
It's like,
and as far as I know, when both Ramirez and Katana died, there was no quickening, which my understanding is there should have been a quickening. So it feels like the filmmakers literally forgot their own rules halfway through the movie.
yeah.
So, and just keep in mind, the movie's called The Quickening.
Yeah.
So, all right. So how mad at me are you for making me watch that?
Not mad at all, because honestly, man, I'm not just saying this, but watching this, it was like watching some sort of experiment. It was like watching a big budget production can just be completely derailed. It can just be like things just go wrong. But the crazy thing is it still ends up as a finished product. It still ends up on the screen, and there's a documentation of it, and it exists as this failed thing.
Now, would you be surprised, Jim, if I were to tell you that this is absolutely not the worst Highlander movie?
I haven't seen the rest, so I'll have to take your word for that. How bad
Some
is
people might enjoy 3 and 4, but 5 is just like I one of the worst reviewed movies ever. People say that it's like super cheap and just utterly incomprehensible.
Okay.
And it stars the guy from the TV show instead of Connor.
Yeah, because I was going to say there was also a TV show.
Yeah.
And I mean,
the TV show did well. I think that the TV show was probably like a good way to go, where they basically just sort of say that the gathering didn't happen yet. Everything about the first movie that you saw, yeah, but there are just still lots of other immortals out there.
Cool. Yeah. Okay.
And that's a pretty easy one to like that. Like maybe that small change is all they needed to do to make more movies, and just sort of say like, you thought that you just won everything. All you did was defeat like a really big guy, but there's still all these other enemies out there. That might have made a lot more sense.
Yeah. But dude, you got to admit, they beat the dead horse on this whole idea for for like decades. This Highlander thing went on, and I'm assuming
it's crazy
there'll be.
To think when the first movie literally didn't do well at the box office, but like did well on VHS, and it became like this known property. So they just keep trying to recapture that magic, but they never quite can do it. Yeah. None of them. By the way, the second movie completely ignores sort of the mythology they did in the second one. The third one ignores that the second one happened. The fourth one ignores that the second and third one happened. The fifth one ignores that the second, third, and fourth one happened. So they just kept trying.
Okay.
Bad. Not good. Not
guys,
good.
You have your homework set up for you out there. Please watch all of these movies and comment below and let us know what you think, because I'm probably not going to be watching them. I'm too busy, Chris, watching Prom Night 2. Hello, Mary Lou. This is my selection.
Please walk us through this one, because this is I would say this is more entertaining overall, although not without its problems.
That's very true. And guys, I do want to recommend the first Prom Night. Just great early 80s slasher movie. Fantastic disco dancing scene at the end with Jamie. Why am I blanking?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm sorry. Really, really moving and shaking and getting down.
Early movie for Jamie Lee Curtis that helped, like, sort of like along with Halloween, sort of made her a scream queen, and it was just a simple slasher, which Canada throughout the 80s made a lot of slasher movies. Like, it's kind of interesting how many there were, but yeah, there were a lot. And this is one of them.
Canadian classic from 1987. And Chris, this was originally just going to be a standalone slasher movie called The Haunting of Hamilton High.
Right.
And then they shot the movie and they were like, oh, there's a prom. It's high school. Let's attach it to this Prom Night label.
Well, they hadn't quite shot it yet. I think that they were about to shoot it, and then they decided that the connective tissue would be. They changed the name of the school to be the same, and apparently, I don't remember when, but apparently the name Mary Lou Maroney was mentioned in the first movie.
Ah, okay.
I don't remember that, but I read that. And anything you read online, my understanding is the truth.
Always, dude. Do you not know that? Always.
I wasn't sure, but you're
guaranteed.
online right now telling me that, so I believe you.
I'm a source of just all truth, Chris. But so this flick starts off. I'll do a very quick just plot of the movie.
I'm
the
listening.
movie,
like Fraser Crane, I'm listening.
You need like a sweater with a collared shirt underneath.
Oh, really, Jim? Just get on with it.
And in a cappuccino. The flick starts off in the 50s. We're at a prom dance. We are introduced to Mary Lou, who is there with her boyfriend, Billy. They seem to be getting along great.
You look really beautiful tonight, Mary Lou.
Billy, could you get me a glass of punch, please?
Sure. Don't go away.
Billy goes to get them punch, and then Mary Lou hooks up with this dude, Cooper, and is dry humping him behind the stage. Billy finds out, he's heartbroken. Mary Lou gets crowned the queen of the prom, and Billy gets the most deadly and dangerous stink bomb ever created and drops it from like the
rafters,
catwalk or something onto the stage. It immediately explodes the curtains and Mary Lou in flames, and she gets murdered. She dies.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to 87, we find out Mary Lou's demonic spirit is trapped in a luggage container in the storage room of the high school. Her
so
crown,
much I want to say, but you should break down the plot and then I'll say.
Her crown and her gown, like the cape that they were going to put on her, are in this. It's almost like a
trunk, a chest,
a pirate's trunk, a treasure chest of thing.
Luggage.
So, long story short, we're introduced to a new girl, Vicky, and Vicky is. There's so many like Carrie vibes in this. Like Vicky's mom is basically the mom from Carrie. A lot of Catholic stuff happening, a lot of religious guilt stuff going on. Vicky basically gets possessed by the spirit of Mary Lou, and wackiness and hijinks and murder ensue, Chris. That's just kind of the overall. Yes. I wanted to do the overall.
I like that. That's a good way. That gives us a basis to riff, Jim. Now we can make our jokes. We can entertain the audience with our silliness.
Here we go, people. But and also, man, I mean, the three flicks that are so apparently in this movie are Exorcist, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Carrie, like I mentioned. It's
super obvious, riffs on each of those at certain points in this movie. You're totally right. But it also has some pretty good actors. The actress who plays Vicky did a lot before and after. Michael Ironside is in this as the principal of the school, also the father of Craig, the boyfriend of Vicky, and finally, he's also the adult version of Billy, the jilted guy from the 50s.
Exactly. Well put. That's his character.
They need to know who he is. You know who the most useless character in this movie was? Craig, the boyfriend.
Yeah.
There's a boyfriend who's dating Vicky. He seems like a good guy, and he's the son of the principal, the guy who accidentally killed this person. You'd think he would be like super important to this story, but he's mostly just around until the very, very end.
Yes, I was going to say in Craig's defense, the only thing he does is he sort of saves the day at the very, very end.
He tries.
But man, this is a really odd movie. It starts off slow, and then once we start getting into the kids preparing for prom, there's an art school girl that's friends with Vicky that gets the crown.
Yes, and Jess.
she's the one that originally starts tinkering with it and breaks off one of the gems of the crown, which I think is the initial catalyst that releases Mary Lou's spirit out of the trunk.
Unclear.
Right? Chris,
we'll just go
here,
with it.
Right?
Unclear. I think she'd already somehow been released, like her spirit, but she is not happy with somebody messing with her crown and the costume jewelry on said crown. By the way, we'll get into it, folks. This is a supremely powerful ghost.
Yeah.
This ghost has telekinesis, like Carrie.
Yeah.
But like full control of it. You know, we're talking Jean Grey level. I can do whatever I want, no problem with my telekinesis.
Yeah. And dude, this follows the trend of and this isn't my idea. I just heard it on a documentary and I was like, that makes so much sense. In the early 80s, late 70s with like Michael Myers and our original early 80s slashers, they were all kind of slow moving, very grounded killers.
Yeah.
By the time we get to the mid 80s, post Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, our killers start to become super powered and supernatural and more fantastical.
Oh, that's
to the point where what you just mentioned, this ghost of Mary Lou, dude, can like manipulate matter. I mean, she can turn a chalkboard into a swirling nightmare pool of liquid matter. It's wild shit. I mean, it's cool looking stuff.
It's like Freddy Krueger with no limits. Like he could attack you during the day if he feels like it. She can do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
There's no hope of beating her.
Yes.
To the extent that towards the end of the movie, there's a priest that tries to like, you know, use like a cross and stuff to like, you know, get her away. And she just stabs the dude to death.
Yeah. Yeah. And that priest, by the way, without getting too confusing, the priest matters because the priest is Cooper, and Cooper was the boy in the 50s that Mary Lou was dry humping at the dance to piss off Billy, her boyfriend.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting because it showed that he had a bit of a character arc, and he never seems to be like, he seems to be very devout as the priest. He sincerely believes Mary Lou is back as a ghost and tries to convince Billy, like there's no real animosity between the two of them anymore.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. And he's just like, you got to watch out. But Billy's like, there's no such thing as ghosts.
You must take communion to protect yourself.
Don't touch me.
For God's sakes, Bill, she's going to kill you. This is the only thing that will protect you.
I don't need protection from something that happened 30 years ago. I've heard enough of this crap. Get out of my...
Fuck off.
Yeah. Michael Ironside in the beginning of this is in complete denial of what could be happening. He doesn't want to go there. But when we see Vicky's home life, I mentioned her mother is this completely overbearing religious kind of nut job, and the dad is this super passive, like has no balls, and you can tell him and Vicky. They sort of get along because when they're eating dinner, Vicky's kind of looking at her dad and asking for like approval with getting a new prom dress. And the mom just cuts in, man, and is like, I approve I have half the say of approving purchases in the house. And your green ugly dress is fine. And what are you going to the dance with your weird boyfriend who drives a motorcycle? And
Craig is like the most innocent, wholesome guy, it turns out. He's not like a biker or anything. I guess maybe that's why they're allowing her to date him. But yeah, like the mom acts like he's bad news or something. It's like his dad's the principal. He seems to be a good student, like whatever.
Yeah, and
we sort of brushed over how Jess gets killed, which is some of the most interesting stuff about these movies.
We should definitely let's get into that because we want Jamie to show some of this stuff.
That's all cool. I'm saying is like, Mary Lou possesses her own cape and strangles Jess. They act like they're going to have her get her head chopped off by what is that, like a paper cutter or something like that?
Exactly.
But I guess like Jess fights away from that just enough to instead get just hung.
Yep.
And at that point, I thought, oh. I guess Mary Lou's done. We already knew that Jess was feeling depressed over a boy.
been trying to call him. He doesn't answer. And I left messages. And he doesn't call me back.
And it'll look like a suicide, so, you know, people won't suspect anything supernatural yet. But then, Mary Lou just throws her out the top window of the school.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, well, that corpse is being discovered the next day by everyone as they're coming into school.
And the reaction to the school? Nothing. Don't worry. Prom is not canceled.
Yeah. This prom is too important, Chris. This is a big deal. Streamers have already been hung in the gym, and
yeah, think of the time it would take to take those down at this point. Like, it's sad that we lost Jess. She seemed like a nice person, but you know, I think her family would want us to keep the streamers up. I really do. I think that would be important. We won't even ask them. We're just going to assume that they want this to
completely
happen.
Well, Chris, one of the main antagonists of the movie, would not allow the prom to be canceled. Our homegirl, Kelly, who turns out to be one of the main rivals of Vicky. Dude, here's the thing in the movie. I don't even really get the impression that Vicky is campaigning that hard to be prom queen. And then suddenly this girl, Kelly, is introduced just for the fact that we need a bitchy antagonist to be like,
I know.
No, bitch, the crown's going to be mine.
I totally agree. But the weird thing is that, like, Kelly seems like the popular girl, like, you know, a cheerleader, like, has all the connections and everything. And Vicky is just sort of like, you know, generic, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, Kelly feels really threatened. And I guess Vicky is in the running for prom queen. Maybe all the characters we meet in this movie is the full school. Maybe all the dancers are like people from the town over or something like that. And there's only like 5 students in this school. The town is in tough economic times.
Super exclusive school, man. This school is more exclusive than the Cellar Dweller School, where there was 8 students total.
That's true. That was pretty exclusive, but maybe this one's even more elite.
Including a 55-year-old man.
By the way, I did look up. Vicky was 26 at this point. Do you think that she looks too old for high school, or do you think she was able to pass?
I think
Learning
she
that.
passes.
Okay.
I also think that the actress does a really good job when she gets possessed and fully embraces.
She's way more interesting playing Mary Lou.
Yeah.
And I get that an actor has to play a difference, but I still felt like Vicky didn't have a whole lot going on with her. That's all.
Yeah. And Chris, man, I do have to mention this because I definitely want Jamie to show the clip, but one of my favorite moments in the entire movie is when Vicky is the possession is just starting to come into her from Mary Lou. Yep. Her and Kelly have this confrontation in the hall, and Kelly's talking shit, and Vicky, in an incredible delivery, is just like, "You shut your fucking mouth, bitch."
You two should take the hint from Jess.
You shut your fucking mouth, bitch. All right.
And like,
because she was talking shit about Jess, and
yes. And the first time I showed this to a group of friends, everyone was like, "Damn." The delivery is fantastic. It's awesome. It's funny. It's like.
There's also scenes where, like, Kelly is such a bitch. They're in gym playing volleyball. Sadly, no Kenny Loggins playing like playing with the boys.
Yeah.
None of that. Kelly has the volleyball, but everybody else is still playing, and they're like, "Kelly, give us the volleyball," and she just whips that thing at Vicky's head to the extent she knocks her out.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get in trouble for it.
Yeah. There's no detention for that, I guess.
So she's the bitch. Got it. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
You kind of need that character. It's a little stock, but it's fine. She does a fine job with that.
Yes.
You talked about that possession. My favorite, I didn't expect it to go as well as it did, but like when Vicky is in her bedroom and she walks by her rocking horse, as most 17-year-old girls have, she walks past and the horse's eyes are red. And at first I thought that was goofy, but then the face of the horse just gets just a little animated, and the eyes like look around a little, and like a tongue just comes out a little, and the subtlety of that I liked a lot. I was like, that's creepy.
Yeah. And that horse becomes almost fully animated later. I mean,
yeah. I thought that the little bit early on was most effective, but that's me.
Yeah. Another scene I did want to mention again, man, the scene where Vicky is grabbed and dragged into the whirling chalkboard, which I wanted to give this is a very nerdy, this is a deep cut, but the effect of that, them having cameras on the ceiling, shooting down into an actual whirlpool, took 5 days to shoot for 45 seconds of footage. And the effects master behind that was Jim Doyle, the guy who created Freddy Krueger's glove.
No kidding.
And who played Freddy in the scene in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, man, where he's coming through the wall behind Nancy.
They used the latex portion of the wall so that like just the impression of Freddy comes out. That was so effective.
That's this guy Jim Doyle, and he's
that's really
awesome.
cool to learn. Jim
Awesome.
Doyle. I gotta respect that. Yeah, overall the effects in this are pretty good. I would say this doesn't have the highest body count compared to sort of other horror movies. It's more like every 15 minutes we lose somebody. It almost on the clock for the first like half or so of the movie. I like the scene where Vicky is starting to sort of hallucinate and become a little possessed, and she goes at night to Mary Lou's grave and bumps into the priest and just sort of asks him like, do you believe in ghosts? I was really hoping she'd say it, ghosts.
Yeah.
Or he could have like replied like, ghosts.
That would have been amazing.
You'd better come with me.
There's something happening at my school. Something about Mary Lou Maloney. Do you believe in ghosts?
That's what clues him on. That was enough for the priest to just instantly believe that Mary Lou is back.
Yeah.
And he tries to do like an exorcism by himself in the church, not like over the grave or anything like that. And all it does is end up making his Bible explode.
Yeah.
And he just sort of gives up.
This was,
you know what I mean?
Dude, that attempted exorcism scene was so confusing to me because
there's no one else
like
there.
A pentagram on the ground.
I don't know if it was a pentagram, but it was like a shape of candles.
Okay. And then, and he's reciting like Latin and he's saying like Satanas and stuff. And it's almost like, wait, dude, it seems like you would be inciting. You're like announcing a satanic thing. I feel like the filmmakers kind of got that wrong, and he was trying to cast out the evil or keep it at bay, but it was like again we have to have an exorcism thing. We have to have an exorcism thing.
This Jim thinks he's such an expert on exorcism. How many exorcisms have you done, Jim? How many have you done that you're such an expert?
I was raised Catholic, so I was.
You
as
were
a kid,
once exercised.
But I was in great fear of all this stuff when I was a kid because I believed
really
this stuff was true. And I remember as a little kid seeing like they would show a trailer on TV for when The Exorcist was coming on TV, and dude, just that trailer when it would come on, I would jump up and run out of the room.
No shit.
And my mom would be like, it's just a movie. But for me, I was like, no, demons are real. Like possession is real. Like this is.
So they wouldn't like sort of tell you like, don't be afraid. They'd be like, yeah, that is a concern.
They definitely told me, but my 7-year-old brain just didn't comprehend like, you guys are in church. They're telling us that there's devils and stuff. So.
Right. That'd be like watching Looney Tunes and going like, Mom, Dad, is quicksand going to be a problem? And they're going to go, I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a bit of a problem as you grow up. It's
probably going to encounter
a bit of a problem.
You're going to encounter it at some point.
You're going to deal with a few cliffs here and there. You got to be careful around cliffs.
Chris, I wanted to ask you, what did you think about the sort of forced comic relief character of
Josh?
the Josh character. Like
it's like they couldn't quite find what they wanted to do with this one character, Josh, because he's sort of like the goofy best friend. We're introduced to him like doing a presentation on his potato powered radio.
Yeah.
And he's really like being silly about it and like a little sexual and stuff. And then he's like really hitting on Monica. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're going to be sort of like the counterpoint to all the crazy stuff going on with Vicky / Mary Lou. Like they're sort of falling for each other. So I'm like, but then they also say that he's the computer nerd that tallies the prom votes. So Kelly is constantly trying to, win him over to switch, rig the votes.
Yeah.
Josh, I just need you to find 11,854 more votes.
Yeah.
And it was like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he could have been okay as one of those things, but they sort of kept shifting what he was going to be. So it sort of ended up just being a perfunctory character.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a pure class clown. It wasn't a romantic lead. It wasn't just sort of like, it wasn't anything.
Yeah. This character, Monica, is like one of Vicky's best friends, and it's sort of introduced like, are Josh and Monica going to become an item together? But then it turns out, we can just jump all over, dude. But it turns out later in the movie when Vicky is like full possessed mode,
yeah,
she has this crazy encounter with Monica in the girls' locker room. And
this is a big scene, actually.
This is one of the standout
There's a lot to
scenes of the movie, of like, and also the boldness of the actress where she's just like fully nude in this scene.
Full frontal. It's weird. Folks, we're talking like an hour into this hour and a half movie, like really, really far into this movie. All of a sudden there's nudity where Vicky is basically fully possessed by Mary Lou.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and sort of hits, well, not just hits on, like she literally goes up and just sort of plants a peck on the mouth of Monica in the shower.
Yeah, while both actresses are naked in the shower. It's like, this is the 80s, dude.
I was stunned seeing that nudity because every other movie we've seen that has nudity, you get some of it in the first 10 minutes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So
sure.
I did not expect any of that. And you're right. Like, and it's not just like a quick topless shot. Like, no, now after that, here's the second thing I want to break down, Jim. Okay, I get it. Monica is surprised and she's not into the kiss, okay? But Vicky / Mary Lou has not tried to kill her or anything. Mm-hmm. She's just kissed her, like come on to her. And Monica runs for her life through the locker room trying to escape. Yeah. And I was like, this comes off now, and maybe even then, as kind of homophobic.
Yeah, it's an extreme reaction to what's happening. It's so extreme.
And she's right, it turns out, to be scared of this character. But what I'm saying is that the writers or a director did not establish a good basis for Monica to be this scared.
Yeah.
She gets a kiss and she runs for it. And like all the doors are now locked and she hides in a locker. Maybe you can break down the last crazy bit of this.
Yeah. Well, we do have a bit of a cat and mouse of this being shot pretty well, of Vicky stalking Monica through the locker room.
Yeah.
Monica quietly gets into one of the lockers, and then Vicky is just standing outside the locker and is able to use Tetsuo Akira power and just crush the and it's a cool effect.
It is.
And like a stream of like chunks and like blood come out of the locker, and Monica's crushed to death. She's gone.
A wop babaloo bop, a wop bam.
and it happens fast once it finally happens. You know, like the scene is like there's a whole row of the lockers, and it's like Magneto just took like, 6 on each side and just shoved them together.
Yeah.
That's another effect. I would be very curious to see how they actually did that.
Yeah.
Was that like miniatures or something, or was it like made out of like a material that just like fooled us into looking like it was steel or something? I don't know, but like, yeah, the whole row of lockers just compacts in like a second and squirts out the juice.
It's a holy shit moment.
It
like,
kind of is.
So, but Chris, after this scene, speaking of holy shit moments, things start ramping up where like, when Vicky's at home getting ready for prom, she's sitting on her horse, and the horse has the tongue again coming out of its mouth, and she's like stroking the tongue of the horse, and then her dad comes in to compliment her on how pretty she looks or whatever. She fully gets off the horse and starts making out with her dad. We have like an incest thing,
and the dad doesn't push her away.
No, it's weird. It's weird
because they never like hinted that like the dad like had thoughts of his daughter that way. So you'd expect him to either push her away or really be into it, but he just sort of stands there and takes it. It's very strange.
And then the mom walks by and catches this and sees it and is like, she loses her shit, of course, like she should. Mary Lou is leaving the house to go to the prom, and mom chases her out, and Mary Lou just like, uses her psionic kinetic power to just blast her mom through the front door of the house. Yeah. And we assume that mom is dead.
You think she's dead? I think she just got tossed through the door onto the porch. But here's why, because
I don't know.
I don't know. The scene just ends there. And then there's a pretty cool scene here where the principal, Billy, has finally become suspicious. I don't know why, because he hasn't come across, say, Monica or anything else, but he finally becomes suspicious. He digs up Mary Lou's grave.
Yes.
Buddy, the priest, Cooper is now in there, and he's like, "Oh my God, like he was right."
With the crucifix shoved into his mouth.
Right.
He's dead. He's dead, Zed.
He's dead, Zed.
So
we get the scene with Josh and Kelly next.
Oh God, yeah. Like I said, there's just one after another, dude. And Kelly offers to bribe Josh with money first, right?
Earlier in the movie, she offered him $100, and that's definitely a Canadian bill, by the way.
Yeah. That's not green money. It's
yellow.
Yeah. And then it gets to the point, man, where Josh refuses to fix the election, right? And then she just straight up offers and engages in oral on him.
Yeah.
This is so sudden.
Put your hands on the keyboard and start entering.
It's kind of crass. It's kind of because up till now we thought that Josh was really into Monica.
Yeah,
but I guess he's just a horny teen. And he's got this tiny little PC and in a room that I never understood what that room was. It's in the school. It isn't anything. It isn't like the audio visual room. It isn't.
I was just gonna say, is that supposed to be the audio visual room? But there's not.
There's nothing else there.
There's one computer in it, Chris. That's all that.
There's one tiny computer. There's a dartboard. There's a poster of Albert Einstein, and there's a few shelves. It's a nothing room. It's a totally nothing room. This is the computer room, the room where we have the computer.
Yes. The one computer. So, Chris, after the famous fellatio scene, Vicky's at the prom now, and she realizes that the election's been fixed, and then she psionically murders Josh through electronic power of his computer, Chris. It's fucking awesome. It's awesome.
Most out of a movie that has a lot of 80s things. We're talking big shoulder pads, big hair, like it's 80s as hell. This is the most 80s thing. A computer can do anything. This idea that like we should fear the computer because yes, the computer starts like, the keyboard starts frying him and then electricity shoots out into his eyes and he gets fried to death by computer.
Yeah.
Because Vicky / Mary Lou touches like an electric cable completely elsewhere.
That's right.
It's like...
That's right.
I used to have an idea. I don't know if I'll ever actually do it, but it was going to be called Computer Summer. And it was like going to be like one of these sort of like beach comedies where like, like a bunch of nerds rent like a beach house.
Like summer
and there's
school.
jocks there. But like the main nerd like can do just about anything with a computer, like make the cars go like faster for like a drag race and stuff like that. Like he can just seduce girls with the computer.
That sounds awesome. And remember, Chris, our show is also a platform and a portfolio, if you will, for us to present our ideas to Hollywood. Hollywood, if you're listening.
Computer Summer.
Copyright Chris Pierce Productions.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm looking out for you. I'm looking out for you, dude.
Let's just say if it was 1985, I probably could have pitched that and got it made. Right now it would definitely be intentional, like satire. But back then it would have been just like, what do these computers do? Anything? Can they just do?
Oh, man.
You can control anything electrical, anything mechanical. You can do anything with a computer.
You can rig a prom night election, Chris.
Yes. She's, which is like, it's kind of like this is almost the most tragic part of the movie is that Kelly has blown a guy that she does not want to blow to change the results, but Mary Lou psychically changed them back.
Yes.
And so Vicky is announced as the prom queen, and the heartbreak on Kelly. I was like, oh my God, you just did all that for nothing.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Look on her face. And then we get what? Billy, Michael Ironside, shows up to the prom
with a gun,
with just gun in hand, goes up onto the same catwalk above, and
just like he did in the 50s,
and shoots Vicky because she's just fully possessed and is now basically Mary Lou.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still in Vicky's body, but guys, just you wait. When her corpse hits the stage, out of the bullet hole manifests the burnt demonic corpse of Mary Lou, and it's an awesome cheesy effect. It's cool.
It is cool. It is.
But it's another holy shit moment. The first time you see the movie, you're like, "What is happening? Holy shit!"
And
all the kids are screaming and running out of the prom
and getting killed.
Cool.
Like Kelly gets killed by like Mary Lou makes a light just fall down and kill her, impale her.
Yeah.
Vicky's sort of husk of a body is just left on the stage. There's not a close-up shot to linger on that, so you have to just sort of be watching. But like that was a cool detail. Yeah. And Mary Lou comes back like as a monster, like all burned up, like you said, but she's very quickly, every time we see her, she's healed a little more until she's back to normal.
Right. But again, man, the idea of high school prom, demonic girl in a prom dress, wide-eyed. It's like, this is all from Carrie. I mean, this is
so Carrie. I mean, the bad guys in like the sort of rafters above and everything.
Yeah.
The way, like all the angles.
Yeah.
Yeah. The prom, the titular, like sort of, prom scene. Yeah. It's very Carrie-esque. Very, very much so.
Yeah. So
just not as good.
Right. So and then, I mean, we can just talk about the wrap up here. Craig shows up
super cleanly, does it?
Yeah, it's odd. Like
there's
Craig
steps.
Craig shows up at the school. Craig and Mary Lou somehow end up in the storage room where the luggage cabinet is that stored her essence, right?
Yeah, the Ghostbusters ghost trap that is this trunk.
The trunk comes alive and is about to suck Craig into it, and then Craig's dad, who is Billy, shows up and saves the day.
It distracts her with a crown, right?
Yes, with the crown. And her
and then it gets like super confusing. Right, he offers her the crown.
I like how we both don't know what happens.
Because it's so... There's no spell or anything. We're each seeing who wants to describe it. Go ahead.
I do know what happens here. Okay, so...
I've got the notes. This is so weird.
When Mary Lou is distracted by the crown, her and Billy kiss... And then we get this crazy, just straight up Evil Dead cam, the Sam Raimi cam that's going through the school and everything. And then we suddenly see magically Vicky comes out of the trunk, like drenched in like slime from Double Dare from
she's
Nickelodeon.
Been slimed by Slimer.
And we believe that everything is cool now?
You're missing an important piece of this, Jim. Okay. So Craig pulls Vicky out of the trunk because the dad distracted Mary Lou with the crown. And then we get that Evil Dead shot, like going to the gravesite, and Mary Lou's grave explodes.
That's right.
It explodes. But why? Why? Nobody did something like mystical, like read a spell, broke the crown, burned her up again. None of that happens.
Yes.
It just explodes, and now she's gone.
She's just
that's why it's confusing. It's like we're missing something.
Gone from the film, guys. But Chris, is Mary Lou really gone? Because in the final scene of our movie, our three heroes, Vicky, Craig, and Billy, all are leaving the high school. There's ambulances, there's cops because of the crazy chaos that happened. We get a straight up Nightmare on Elm Street 1 ending.
Yep.
Where they're in the car together. Billy, Michael Ironside's driving. Suddenly, they're like, we're all safe now. They literally say this. We're all safe. And they drive away. And a 50s song comes on the radio.
They're playing our song. Let's cruise.
And Michael Ironside turns and looks at them, and he's possessed by Mary Lou.
He's more than just looking forward, and his eyes are blue.
Yes.
And then we see an exterior shot of the car driving away. Well, first, I guess Vicky screams. Scream Queen moment.
Yeah.
It drives away, and the license plate is changed to read Mary Lou.
Yeah.
And that's the end.
Yeah.
May I add one other thing about the ending, though?
Please do. Yeah.
Right before we have the three leads get in the car, there's like this weird long establishing shot of like the police and firefighters and stuff at the school. There's this cop who's an extra. It's night, and he's got like sort of sunglasses and a big bushy mustache. Looks like Axe Cop or something. And he goes, "You know what we got here? Something strange." Great line.
Dude, I'm so glad you pointed him out in his performance, because his performance completely takes you out of the movie where you're like, who's this guy? Yeah. What?
You know what we got here? Something strange. Like, understatement.
It's a so cop from Brooklyn that somehow ended up on the set in Canada? Who is this guy?
He did not get the memo of what type of movie it was, and just sort of, something strange.
So, Chris, just to recap for a second, Mary Lou's spirit was able to possess a cape, a piece of cloth, a girl in Vicky, and then jump into Billy at the end of the movie, Michael Ironside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a multi-functioning demonic entity.
Why was the crown and cape not in police evidence? I mean, she was killed.
Yeah. But you know, man,
we can't think about that stuff so much. It's supernatural. It's just weird that it waits. It's like Mary Lou waited 30 years to come out, and then she just did, and then nothing could stop her.
Yeah. But this is a fun watch. This this goes on my Jim's recommended beer drinking with friends movie list.
Mine gets not recommended. Mine gets not recommended. I'd forgotten that it was this bad.
Dude, Chris, yours gets recommended as a scientific experiment.
Yes.
Like, for all you future storyteller movie makers out there, you watch Highlander 2 as what not to do, or what not to happen for your production.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think if they'd had a locked in better script from the beginning, it might have overcome some of the tinkering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense from the beginning. So like you tinker with it a little and it just utterly breaks. Whereas this one's it's more straightforward. You know, it's just a spirit possesses a girl and kind of all she wants is to be prom queen again.
Yes.
Which she gets.
Right. Briefly. Yeah. And like this movie is also like, and then weird kinky shit happens.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one. I think I'm good stopping at this installment because there were two more featuring Mary Lou, and then another one that was more about just, again, like the first movie, just a slasher killer. And then they rebooted the first one too. So like there's actually like 6 prom night movies, which is utterly insane to me.
Yeah.
Two is plenty.
Chris, I had a quick note that was hilarious, which is the kid who played Josh, the actor, his dad was one of the main producers on the Prom Night series. So Josh is in the first 4 movies just because dad was a producer. I think I'm assuming he's playing different characters, obviously, because he dies. But
he gets fried.
That actor is just jumping around in all 4 of the movies.
We got to stop these Nepo babies from showing up in our Prom Night sequels.
Oh, man.
they're
nothing
taking
sacred.
they're taking all the Prom Night roles from the hard working man like you and me.
Oh my God.
Where's my chance at being in a Prom Night movie? What character would you play if you were in a Prom Night movie? Now, you're not. You're too old to play a teenager, Jim.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, I was going to say I'd play the misfit art student character, but can I play the misfit art teacher?
Yes. And now you've just reminded me of another crazy scene in the movie.
Yes.
The teacher that out of nowhere becomes a total perv, doesn't know that Vicky is possessed by Mary Lou, but like just feels her up during class in front of everybody.
Yeah. And it's like, does that teacher get, he doesn't get killed, right? There's no punishment.
No, he doesn't get killed. It's much, much stranger how they decided to do this. So he like grabs her butt, essentially. Let me simplify it to that. And I guess it's a science class because then he walks over towards the front desk and Mary Lou uses her psychic powers to turn on a Bunsen burner, which like burns his dick enough for him to scream in pain.
Oh, that's
but I guess not catch on fire.
Yeah.
And the class laughs at it.
Yes.
He's the teacher's like in so much pain. He's like, ah, and this class is like, he got his dick burned.
That's right. So there is some comeuppance. There is punishment. It's a super odd scene.
Super odd.
But yeah, I would be the cool, hopefully
you'd be the cool art teacher.
Problem solving. Like I give the kids a hint. Of what
you
to
tell
do.
them how to think in a different way. You're like, sometimes you need to think of the creative solution.
Yes. You murder this demon with art supplies. You murder this demon with art supplies with with an enchanted T-square and a gun that shoots out X-Acto knives or something.
Ooh,
I'm channeling some Sam Raimi kind of, make your own weapons in shop class via art supplies. But
lots of close-ups as they like wrap some duct tape around some X-Acto knives or something like that.
Yeah.
Pick it up. Groovy.
Yeah.
I would just be probably like, I don't know, the janitor or like a homeless guy that just hangs out around like and watches like the kids like play dodgeball or something. Ooh.
You're Bluto from Pieces.
Yes. Yes.
With
my God, with your going all the way back to the first.
With your suspicious chainsaw in every scene, dude. Like, this guy is literally stroking a chainsaw. Like, what is happening?
And he wasn't the killer.
Yeah.
There's a difference between giving us a suspect and just like flat out like showing us that this guy should be the killer and then just being like, surprise,
right?
He's not.
Right. Yeah.
It was an interesting watch. Thank you very much for introducing me to Prom Night 2.
You're welcome, man. And here's the other cool thing though, like your idea of doing sequels for a show where you don't have to watch the first movie to watch the sequel. No. And I like that idea. I like that theme of, it's something different.
It could have really worked for Halloween. A lot of people they just didn't watch Halloween 3 because it wasn't Michael Myers. But I think that original idea of making it something like a yearly anthology horror movie series that's just set at Halloween was such a good idea.
Yep.
Did you ever see, you probably have, your buddy Rob Schraub has created some t-shirts and stuff for fake movies?
Yes.
I like my favorite of his is Halloween 3 Part 2.
Yes.
Not Halloween 4, Halloween 3 Part 2.
Continuing that batshit crazy story. Like, that's awesome. I love Halloween 3. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I love that movie. It's awesome.
I do now. It's like, I think in the moment when I first saw it, I was also sort of like, wait, where's Michael Myers? I was pretty young when I saw it. And I was like a little like, this just isn't what I want. Plus, it's honestly a very weird movie. It has
super weird,
not just druids, but also life model decoy robots.
Yes.
So that's pretty weird. But I kind of like it for its weirdness now.
Completely, man. Yeah. It's a standalone flick. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of what I mean.
It's a cliche thing. Everyone is like, oh man, they should have just released it as Season of the Witch and not even tied it to Halloween at all. Just a standalone 80s horror movie called The Season of the Witch. And it's about this crazy guy who wants to murder children with these masks.
Or alternately, if that had just been Halloween 2, or like something like maybe it was like Season of the Witch, a Halloween movie, and that became the brand. You know what I mean? Like, because I get what John Carpenter was going for. The idea of creating like more just a Halloween horror anthology brand. And that was a good idea. Maybe it was just too ahead of its time. Look at how we're just talking about all sorts of stuff aside from like the movies in front of us.
This was an interesting one, man. This was cool to try different things. We've done ninja movies, Hammer horror, a weird sequel episode. Like I have no ideas for the next one, but I'm going to shoot some movies your way.
Good.
And we can.
Doesn't always have to have a theme.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes when we're like, oh, what should we do next? If one of us picks a movie first, then sometimes that just triggers the other person to think of something that's somehow related. That's all. And that becomes a default theme. The idea is just we each make each other watch a weird movie.
Yes,
that's all it is. But what's cool is this was episode 10. Folks, we are very much on track to release a 13th episode on an actual Friday the 13th. I'm pretty stoked to potentially do that.
We're going to do it. We have to do it.
We have to. So we both get COVID and we just are like, we have to record episode 11.
This is the sick episode, but no, it's so obvious that it has to be done, man. We can pull it off.
I think so too.
We can pull it off.
I don't know. Any final thoughts on the movies that we watched? or you good to just move on to plugs?
I'm good to go, man. If you guys want to check out my other YouTube efforts, I'm doing a new show with Sean Crystal called Ink Pulp Live. You can see that on Ink Pulp's channel on YouTube. Live drawing, comics chat, hanging out. All my links are below to my social media and to purchase books directly from me off my website. Chris, what do you got for us?
By the time this comes out, I'll have had a somewhat recent episode hit Comic Tropes. I just did an episode about Mike Zeck that I was really proud of. Just like a really foundational artist for young Chris in terms of getting into comics. Really, really respect the hell out of Mike Zeck personally.
Me too, man. Love his work.
He's got an interesting, really focused career where he wanted to get into comics. He did what he needed to do, and he got out, and I sort of break that down and show what he did that's unique and special.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm a huge fan of his work. We're both 80s babies, and we talked about it last time off camera, but it was like his G.I. Joe covers in the 80s and Secret Wars, and I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, he could do both. Like, it's interesting. There's artists that can do both interiors and covers. It's a different set of skills. He had them both, but he was definitely one of the better cover artists out there.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So I've got that over on Comic Tropes. Got a weekly show on this channel about comic book news and stuff. Let's see. And we'll have some big news coming out soon because, San Diego Comic-Con, by the time this comes out, it'll almost be San Diego Comic-Con. Are you going this year?
I'm not. I'm just hanging out.
Me neither.
I have so much work in July and August. But guys, I'll be at Dragon Con at the end of August, early September in Atlanta. So cruise by. That'll be my next appearance.
Perfect. And we won't say what, but Jim will eventually be doing his next comic, and when we get closer, we can like start announcing that. But I'm just mentioning that that's coming so that people can get like pre-hyped for you.
Yes, the pre-hype to the pre-hype of a creator-owned Kickstarter thing that I'm definitely going to be launching. So
exactly. No, it's a big deal. I'm excited for you. Folks, thank you so much. Appreciate all the comments, with recommendations and observations that we may have missed. And I'll, of course, also appreciate the folks over on the Discord at Schraub Home Video that watch it on Sundays. Like, really, really love getting to see all the positivity and the interest in these kinds of movies. So appreciate it, folks.
Yes. And thank you to our glorious editor, Jazzy Jamie Wood.
Thank you, Jamie. You make us look good, or as good as possible, I guess. We'll see how things go. I like the idea of jumping forward like 2 years in time and seeing like what the ravages of time have done to us, and whether like Jazzy Jamie will have like some great touch up tools to like sort of
photoshopped
pull us back, like youthing us. I'm just having fun. All right, folks, keep it trashy, right?
Yes, garbage day, baby.
Garbage day.
Trash movie bonanza. Like and subscribe. Thank you.